Listen to this and tell me if you understand it. Tell me if it makes sense. On the facts available to it, the South African Reserve Bank finds there was no perfected transaction, and thus the South African Reserve Bank cannot conclude that there was any contravention of the exchange control regulations. The applicable regulation is Regulation 6.1 by Ntabanyoni Estates CC, the entity involved, or for that matter, by the president. That is because the South African Reserve Bank has concluded that the transaction in question was subject to conditions precedent which were not fulfilled, and therefore there was no legal entitlement within the meaning of Regulation 6.1 on the part of Ntabanyoni Estates to the foreign currency. Do you understand this? It's a lot. It's a lot. Basically, they're saying that, because this was an irregular transaction, there's no need to declare the tax. There's no need to declare the money, rather, because the transaction itself is such that the president and Ntabanyoni were not entitled to the money. They took the money. They kept the money. But the Reserve Bank is saying that, listen, the way we look at it, if you squint 60 degrees from a 45-degree angle, and then you open your eyes like this, and if you look at it that way, then the transaction is not perfected. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Nkandla report. The audacious part for me of the Nkandla scandal was not that there had been upgrades to Zuma's home. I felt that Zuma could have repaid those, even though he didn't necessarily agree. The audacious part of the whole thing was the ministers coming to the public with straight faces, saying that the pool was a fire pool, and therefore it was a justifiable security expense. What? Are we so, is there something here that says that we're so... I couldn't get it. I couldn't even get the chutzpah of all of that, to be quite honest with you. I mean, ministers sat down and said, you know what? Let's just tell them it's a fire pool. They'll believe us. That to me was really where things started going off the rails. I think that if Zuma had actually paid back the money, like Thuli Madonsela had said, that the Nkandla story wouldn't have been as big a scandal as it would have been, because he would have said, I didn't know that these guys chose these upgrades. Here's the money back, etc. This is what this sounds like. Now let's go back to what we know as the facts. What are the facts? We know that Hazim Mustafa came into South Africa with bags of money. We don't know how much he came in with, but we know that he did not declare that money. We know that that money ended up at Phala Phala Farm, foreign currency. And we know that that money ended up in the sofas at Phala Phala Farm. So we know those facts. A large amount of foreign currency came in. It was not declared by the person who brought it in, and it was not declared by the recipients, right? The South African Reserve Bank is supposed to be tracking all of these things for the purposes of holding those kinds of people to account for, tax purposes, etc., and to know where the money is, right? So we know those facts, and we know what the regulation actually says. The regulation says the following: every person resident in the Republic who becomes entitled to sell or to procure the sale of any foreign currency shall, within 30 days after becoming so entitled, make or cause to be made a declaration in writing of such foreign currency to the Treasury or to an authorized dealer. That means you're not supposed to be sitting with millions of foreign currency in your sofa. It's not allowed. It's against the law. That's what the regulation means. But the South African Reserve Bank has come and said it's not perfected. And because it's not perfected, they can make a conclusion that there was a contravention. Does it make sense to you? Or does it sound like another fire pool situation? I mean, if this was supposed to be the clean exit from the Phala Phala scandal? Does it achieve that? I mean, Pierre de Vos, the constitutional law professor at the University of Cape Town, he's a Ramaphosa supporter on most days. But even he couldn't believe the explanation. He said the explanation was incomprehensible. A constitutional law professor said the explanation provided by the South African Reserve Bank was incomprehensible. That's not me saying that. That's a constitutional law professor who supports President Ramaphosa. Is he wrong? A lot of people are saying, what is this? Are they wrong? Are they wrong? Do you buy this? Do you think that it's acceptable that someone could come in with millions of foreign currency, not declare it? Another person receive millions of not foreign currency, not declare that foreign currency, and then we all say nothing to see, no scandal. What do you think? Is that transaction logically perfected? You tell me.